Is a shallow-depth wine cooler really worth the price for everyday wine lovers, or is it just another piece of kitchen core that ends up gathering dust? Who will actually get value out of a 24-inch wide, 33-bottle built-in unit, and who should keep scrolling past it? If you're on the fence, I'm going to walk through the real-world trade-offs so you can decide whether this is the right fit for your home. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the problem most of us face when we start collecting wine: space. A typical freestanding wine fridge can be 30 inches deep or more, and that's a lot of room to carve out in a kitchen that's already packed with appliances. The Summit Appliance Store's 24-inch shallow-depth model was designed to slip into a standard wall cabinet or a built-in niche without demanding a full-size refrigerator footprint. That's the main selling point, and it's genuinely useful if you live in an apartment, a condo, or a smaller house where every inch counts. The unit holds up to 33 standard bottles, which translates to roughly a half case plus a few extras, enough for a casual host who enjoys a couple of glasses with dinner, but not enough for someone who's curating a serious cellar. From a practical standpoint, the double-pane tempered glass door is a nice touch. The 2 layers of glass create an insulating barrier that helps keep the interior temperature stable, especially when the door is opened frequently during a dinner party. The door also swings on a standard hinge, which means you won't have to wrestle with a bulky articulating hinge that can be tricky to align during installation. However, the standard hinge does limit how wide the door can open. In a tight alcove, you may need to make sure there's at least a foot of clearance on one side, otherwise the door will hit the cabinet frame. If you're installing this in a narrow gap between a fridge and a countertop, that could become a real annoyance. The stainless steel exterior gives the cooler a sleek, modern look that blends well with contemporary cabinetry. It's not a flashy color pop piece, which is exactly why many homeowners like it. The unit feels like an extension of the kitchen rather than a standalone appliance. The ADA-compliant door also means the handle is designed for easier operation, a small but thoughtful detail for anyone with limited hand strength or mobility concerns. Now, let's address the temperature side of things. The product description emphasizes that it's a single-zone cooler, meaning the whole interior is kept at one temperature. That's fine if you mostly drink reds at a slightly warmer range or whites at a cooler range, but you won't be able to set separate zones for sparkling wines or a dedicated white wine cellar. For a typical home user who stores a mixed collection and is okay with a compromised temperature, that's a reasonable trade-off. Serious collectors, however, often want the flexibility to store reds at 55°F and whites at 45°F, and for them this unit will feel limiting. Installation is another area where the shallow depth can be both a blessing and a curse. Because the cabinet depth is reduced, the unit requires a vented space behind it to allow heat to escape. If you plan to tuck it into an existing cabinet, you'll need to cut a ventilation gap of at least an inch at the back, and you'll have to make sure the surrounding cabinetry can handle the extra heat load. Most installers I've spoken with say the process is straightforward: just remove the back panel, insert the unit, and connect the power, but you do need a dedicated circuit or at least a reliable outlet that can handle the cooler's power draw. If you're not comfortable pulling the unit out of the box and hooking it up, budgeting for a professional installation could add $100, $150 to the total cost. So, who should buy this wine cooler? If you're a casual entertainer who wants a built-in look, has a modest collection of 30-plus bottles, and lives in a space where a full-depth fridge would be impractical, this model hits the sweet spot. It's also a good choice for people with accessibility needs because of the ADA-compliant door. The aesthetic of the stainless steel and the glass front will blend nicely into most kitchen designs, and the shallow depth means you won't have to sacrifice counter space. Who should skip it? If your collection already exceeds 40 bottles, if you need separate temperature zones for reds, whites, and sparkling, or if you have unusually large bottles, like magnums or certain dessert wines, that might not fit comfortably in a 33-bottle layout, you'll run into frustration. The standard hinge can also be a deal-breaker if you're installing the unit in a cramped nook where the door can't swing freely. Finally, if you were hoping for a freestanding unit that you could move around, this built-in design is not meant for that kind of flexibility. Let's talk value. The price point sits in the mid-range for built-in wine.